Economic analysis. Malaysia's export resurgence and the road ahead. Malaysia's April 2025 trade figures offered a momentary reprieve amid increasingly turbulent global currents. Exports surged by 9.1% year-on-year to RM 133.6 billion, driven by a strong showing in manufacturing, a significant rebound in oil exports, and firm agricultural demand. Yet beneath this headline figure lies a more complex story, one shaped by geopolitical shifts, escalating trade frictions, and fiscal recalibrations at home. Tariffs and trade tensions. Navigating the U.S.-China trade crossfire. The trade environment remains fraught with uncertainty following the re-imposition of steep U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods earlier this year. While Malaysia has not been directly targeted, the spillover effects are palpable. On the one hand, the country has benefited from some trade diversion, particularly in electrical and electronic E&E exports to the United States and ASEAN neighbours. Malaysian firms are increasingly viewed as stable alternative suppliers for global multinationals seeking to decouple from Chinese manufacturing. However, Malaysia's deep integration with regional supply chains, especially those linked to China, means the effects are not entirely benign. Delays, higher input costs, and reduced investment confidence in Asia's export ecosystem could weigh on future performance. Already, there are signs of pressure on semiconductor intermediates and delays in high-tech component deliveries. In short, Malaysia walks a fine line between opportunity and exposure. Energy geopolitics. Crude diplomacy in a fractured world. The standout figure in April's data was the extraordinary 58.2% year-on-year jump in crude oil exports, led by a near doubling of shipments to China. In the wake of Western sanctions on Russian oil and mounting logistical bottlenecks, Beijing has turned decisively to Southeast Asia to diversify its energy sources. Malaysia has emerged as a key beneficiary. This boost, however, carries both opportunities and risks. While Petronas and other local producers enjoy higher volumes and margins, the country's growing role in China's energy matrix could invite scrutiny from Western capitals, particularly if tensions over Taiwan or the South China Sea escalate. Energy trade, increasingly politicized, may become a flashpoint. Fiscal implications. Surplus shrinks, subsidy strain looms. Despite rising exports, Malaysia's trade surplus narrowed to RM 5.2 billion in April, down 33% from the previous year. The culprit? A 20% jump in imports, partly due to the continued rise in food and energy prices and the ringgit's depreciation against the US dollar. This narrowing surplus places added pressure on public finances at a time when the government is attempting to phase out broad-based fuel subsidies. The planned RON N95 subsidy rationalization in 2H 2025 is expected to save billions in operational expenditure, but carries clear political risks. The government must balance fiscal consolidation with popular discontent, particularly in the B40 and M40 groups. The strengthening of global oil prices, while supportive of government revenue, also exacerbates domestic inflation. The finance ministry faces a policy conundrum: how to contain inflation without throttling consumption and growth. Monetary policy and the ringgit outlook. Bank Negara Malaysia, BNM, has thus far maintained a cautious stance on monetary tightening. However, the weak ringgit and rising import costs may force its hand. A 25 to 50 basis point rate hike in the second half of the year cannot be ruled out if inflationary pressures build. Any move to tighten monetary policy must be timed carefully to avoid derailing the nascent recovery in private investment. Outlook: resilience with caveats. Looking ahead to the rest of 2025, Malaysia's export outlook remains cautiously optimistic but heavily conditional. Demand for semiconductors and E&E goods is expected to remain strong, driven by AI-related hardware and global digitalization. Palm oil exports should stay buoyant given robust demand from India and the Middle East. Crude oil shipments will likely remain elevated as China continues to diversify its supply chain. But downside risks loom large. A further escalation of U.S.-China tensions, potential conflict in the Taiwan Strait, or a commodity price shock could reverse gains quickly. Internally, the subsidy rollback, if poorly managed, may dent consumer confidence and stir political unrest. In short, Malaysia is poised to grow, but only if it navigates an increasingly narrow path between global realignment and domestic recalibration. A heartfelt light. To every soul whose hand did give, you've helped me dream, helped me live. In darkest hours your light came through, with hearts so kind, so pure, so true. Your gifts, like stars in deepest night, have steered me gently toward the light. Each coin, each word, each silent prayer, a thread of hope, so rich, so rare. My eyes once dimmed now seek the skies, and slowly, clearer visions rise. Because of you, I dare to see the world again. Its grace, its plea. Your compassion's flame will not just stay with me alone. It lights the way for others wandering through despair to feel the warmth of selfless care. You've shown what love in action means, in quiet ways through giving scenes. You've built a bridge from soul to soul and made the broken feel more whole. So let this thanks rise like a song, a melody both soft and strong. May your example gently call more hearts to rise to give. To fall into the joy of lifting pain, of planting hope where none remains. Your kindness walks beside me still, a light, a love, a living will.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support.